Welcome. Today, I'm going to teach you how to unlock the secret boss fight of Persona 4 Golden. Slight spoilers ahead for how to get the different endings, the later dungeons, and who the secret boss is. Without further ado, what is Persona 4 Golden? Well, if you clicked on this video, you probably already know. For those that don't, Persona 4 is a JRPG that splits your time between being a normal high school student in a small town from the big city and a katana wielding, shadow slaying, and persona using high school student, still from the big city. You need to manage your time in game to get the most out of it, but that's not why we're here. We're here because we're going to fight the secret boss. This is Margaret. She helps you out throughout the game by keeping all the personas you unlock in a book, kinda like a collection of Pokemon cards. Hey, 4 letters to your numbers. I see she's cool and likes to collect trading cards, but how do we actually unlock and fight her? Well, I'm glad you asked. Before considering fighting Margaret, be aware it will take you about 60 to 90 hours to even have the chance to unlock her and fight her. You must be on the second playthrough, you must complete her social link, beat every optional boss, and be on the path to the true ending to unlock her. There's 1 optional boss per each dungeon to a total of 6 you need to fight and kill. After you beat the story boss, you can go back through the dungeon and there'll be a new, essentially just big version of a normal enemy waiting to try to trounce you. To get the true ending, you have to answer some prompts very specifically when you're about to throw a certain man into the TV. Then later, figure out who the killer is and tell your friends who the killer is, otherwise you'll get the bad or accomplice endings. And then a little bit later, when you're prompted to go home and pack, instead go to Juness and spend time with your friends before going and talking with your uncle and cousin. This will put you on the path to the true ending and the path to be able to fight Margaret. Then after you have everything set up for the true ending, you'll unlock the final dungeon and you'll go into the TV. Now you can spend as much time in here as you want, training, doing whatever, until you're either go and fight the final boss or you go and finish off the secret boss, Margaret. Now Margaret is no pushover. I won't lie, Persona 4 Golden, it was a decently easy game. I played on normal and had 0 issues. But Margaret will kick you until you're in a curled ball and then one-shot you with a super Megadolown. Her fight, though difficult and long, is actually very simple. She works like any of the other bosses, with her gimmick that she attacks 2 times a phase, and she has a lot of different elemental attacks that most likely someone in your party is going to be weak to. This will put you into the loop of you attacking with your 4 team members, and then Margaret attacking anywhere from 2 to 4 times. Generally, she'll start out with an attack that is strong against 1 of your team members, and if that lands, she'll follow it up with an AoE version of the same spell. And she can do that twice. So, worst case scenario, let's say she'll attack Kanji with a wind move, uses an AoE wind move, Kanji then gets knocked down and dizzy, and then she follows it up with, let's say, a fire move that Teddy's weak to, and then hits an AoE fire move after, making Teddy knocked down and dizzy, Kanji knocked down and dizzy, and a big AoE damage. This is altered slightly when instead she does Mind Charge and Megadolown, which just doubles her Megadolown's severe almighty damage. From that skeleton of the fight, she does a few other things that I'll get into when talking about my strategy. Now I went into this expecting it to be fairly easy. I had no challenge from the rest of the game, so I went in with just a decently low-level team that was just my favorite characters. Naoto, Yukiko, Kanji. Well, she fucking kicked my ass. Then I tried again, and I got her decently further, but still lost, so I thought, I need to make a plan. And so I did. Now when choosing your team, I use a few viable options. The only thing to remember, there are a few vital moves that I think you need no matter what team you're making. For instance, Yukiko's Salvation. This is a full heal and a full cleanse, so you either need Yukiko with it, or your character needs to have it, because I do not think this fight is possible without either having Salvation or a move that's still a full heal. Secondly, a high damage physical spell. There's a few characters that have these, Chie, Kanji. I chose Kanji's Primal Force because, well, I like Kanji, and also he heals up HP every turn, and he's one of the tankiest members that you can actually have. And thirdly, you need to have a defense up spell. This is very important, because without it, you run the risk of you being one-shot or anyone on your team being one-shot. You may ask, why is the physical spell as important as avoiding being one-shot and being able to fully heal? Well, I'll tell you. When Margaret uses any of her personas that launches an elemental attack, she'll be immune or sometimes even just heal from the damage that she just used. So if she uses a fire spell and Yukiko uses her burning petals, that'll heal Margaret for a good chunk of damage, and you do not want that. Well, I think the two optimal teams in my mind would be either Yukiko, Kanji, and Chie, or Yukiko, Kanji, Teddy. This way you have Yukiko Salvation, always. Kanji has his physical damage, and Teddy is a second support, so you can constantly buff your team, and then you can focus on your character, Yu, Narukami, and Kanji being the damage dealers. Or, you can do closer to mine, where you have Yukiko, Chie, and Kanji, where you have Chie buffing up your crit, Kanji doing physical damage, both of them are your damage dealers, Yukiko healing, and you can be the support like I did in my playthrough. Now, the second thing I had to prep was when I went in, I realized this is a long fight. I think when I streamed it, it took me about an hour of real time. So I thought, I'm going to go grind the Reaper. The Reaper is a rare enemy in Persona 4, where he will attack you if you open 22 consecutive chests, as long as the 22nd chest had a shadow in it. There is a way you can farm this, where if you go to Yukiko's castle, you just repeat the first floor repeatedly until you hit 20 chests exactly. And then you go to one of the higher floors that has 2 chests, both of them have a chance of having a shadow in it, and you can just repeat that cycle until you find the Reaper, beat the Reaper, and get the items. When you kill the Reaper, he will give you an ultimate weapon, which is the best weapon for one of your team members. When each of your team members has their ultimate weapons, you can then get the ultimate armor. And when each of your team members has the ultimate armor, you can get the ultimate accessory. So, if you want to grind the Reaper out 11 times, then you can get the ultimate accessory for your 3 party members, the ultimate weapon for all 4, and the ultimate armor for all 4. Now you may be asking, wait, why did you get the ultimate accessory for you, Narukami, too? Well, that's because of my next prep phase. In New Game Plus, you can form the ultimate persona, Izanagi no Okami, out of 10 specific other personas. He's strong against all types of damage besides light and dark, and this is why Yu doesn't need the ultimate accessory. Under normal gameplay, this persona is very strong. I think he's borderline necessary against Margaret. Then the final prep I made was I put Marukukaja, Manarukaja, and Marakukanda on Izanagi no Okami. These buff attack, buff defense, and lower defense of your team and the enemy's team respectively. Defense up, as I previously mentioned, is extremely important because you run the risk every round of just being one shot by Margaret without it. Attack up is nice because it will slowly speed up the game. So with more attack, you just beat her quicker, less time you have to outlast her. And lowering her defense is the same as attack. You lower her defense so you deal more damage. I think with all 3 of these active, I was getting Kanji up to dealing about 700 damage with the Primal Force, which is pretty girthy. Now there's 2 big moments you need to know about before you decide, alright, I'm ready to fight Margaret, and you walk in there. The first is when you get her about half health one time, she will fully heal. So the fight is deceptively longer than you would think going in. So all this really means is her health bar is just 50% longer than it just shows. 2. You can get revived once per combat by Risai. However, you need to make sure this doesn't happen before Margaret uses her ultimate 9999 Megadolon attack. This is unavoidable and will kill your entire team. so you also need to make sure you are stocked up on bombs of life that can fully heal and revive your team members. Now, how'd my fight go? Well, in the beginning, this was my third attempt, and my first attempt since I put all my preparations in place. I floundered a bit because I was stuck in the mindset of saving SP and trying to figure out what would be efficient. Would I just buff my team's defense and outlast that way, or would I use some of my SP items to buff up my team's attack, lower her defense, and boost my defense respectively? And this is what I decided was the best and most efficient way to kill her in the most efficient way possible. I set it up in a 3-turn rotation, where you start with Yu Narigami. He'd buff the team's defense. Naoto would heal either Yukiko or use SP, or if they are full or in a good spot, she would attack with her gun or use her Megadolan. Then Yukiko would use Salvation to full heal the team, and if the team didn't need a full heal, she would attack using her weapon as well, and then Kanji would use Primal Force. Then I would repeat that cycle, switching between the 3 buffing moves every turn. This way, by the time your defense is wearing out, you just reapply it so you always have each buff. And if you have SP items, you can have Naoto constantly healing Yu Narigami's SP, or Yukiko's for heals, and you can just keep that going forever. That way you're dealing the most damage possible, and you're tanking the most damage possible. The issue with that strategy and plan is you will go through SP extremely quickly. So you have to make sure you have SP items, otherwise you're going to have to focus far more on conserving the SP. Make sure you're not using any of Yukiko's fire moves, because you'll be dealing a little bit more damage in her attack, but the SP for Salvation is far more important than dealing a little extra damage using Burning Petals. Luckily, when you're in this last area, you can leave and go to the shops without being forced out of the TV, and you have to spend a day outside the TV. You use as many times as you want and stock up as many times as you want on the shops. And since you can also grind infinitely in this part of the game, because you're in the true ending, you can also get money whenever you want. However, the caveat is if you do not have the Hermit social link all the way up, it is going to be extremely expensive to heal all your SP up between grinding sessions. So for that reason, while you're maxing out the Empress, I highly recommend maxing out the Hermit as well. If you don't care about story on your first playthrough, then do this specifically on the New Game Plus, where the S-links don't matter as much because you already experienced them for yourself the first time. And that's what I'd recommend to beat Margaret, and that's similarly to how I beat Margaret. If you want to see the full stream, I'm going to upload that to the second channel with all my other full streams. You can also watch me on my Twitch channel, 4 letters 2 numbers, for any other streams I'm doing similarly. Now, the good thing about this fight in particular, it is hard and it is long, but unlike an action skill-based game like Dark Souls, there's always going to be that skill barrier where if you are not fast enough or anything like that, that is going to stop you from being able to win. Eventually you can overcome it, but there's that barrier of skill and reaction timing. With the JRPG that's turn-based like this, if you get the right plan in place, anyone can beat this boss. You just need to know what you're doing, and you just need to stick to the plan. So I hope you enjoyed learning about the secret boss Persona 4 Golden and how to beat her. If you want to fight her yourself, I wish you luck and Godspeed, and now you know how to do it as well. Thank you for staying tuned into the video, and more soon.